Okay, let's jump right into today's explainer. We're unpacking a really fascinating Nollywood movie that perfectly captures that intense clash between modern expectations and traditional values. The story we're exploring today is called I Was Ashamed of My Wife Until This Happened. And honestly, it's an incredible journey of a guy who was totally forced to rethink everything he thought he knew about love, partnership, and what actually makes a good home. Have you ever realized that the partner you thought you wanted is the exact opposite of what you actually need? It's kind of a crazy thought, right? But that's exactly the reality our main character faces. We're going to look at how superficial desires can completely blind us to absolute gold mines right in front of our faces. Let's get into expectation versus reality, meeting the village bride. Our story kicks off with Mark. He's a successful modern guy returning from the city, and he arrives home only to discover his mom has arranged a marriage for him. She's brought a village girl named Ego to be his wife, totally convinced that she's the kind of decent, hardworking woman who can actually manage a household. But Mark, he is absolutely horrified. His actual reaction is literally, "What I ordered versus what I got. This is a clear example." That quote just perfectly captures his initial shock. See, his mom had previously sent him this heavily edited, gorgeous, professional studio photograph of her. But in reality, Ego greets him wearing mismatched clothes, super heavy and unusual makeup, and just completely lacking that slick city polish. He literally feels scammed. Ego's initial impression is honestly a huge mix of extremes. She's incredibly eager to please, bringing him a mountain of food almost the second he arrives. But Mark's immediate reaction is just pure regret. He totally struggles to accept her lack of city etiquette. He watches in disgust as she eats with her bare hands, and he even accuses her of picking her nose with those same hands. He's just entirely focused on the unpolished packaging. This naturally brings us to the tale of two women, a stark contrast in character. What's really gripping about this narrative is the dramatic tension they build by putting Ego right up against Mark's actual city girlfriend, Sandra. You see a brilliant illustration of two completely opposite approaches to a relationship. First, you've got Sandra. She's the modern, flashy city girl that Mark thinks he prefers. But actually, she's demanding, incredibly entitled, leaves the house a total mess, and flat out refuses to do any domestic care. Then you contrast that with Ego, who is patient, highly respectful, deeply nurturing, and an absolutely incredible cook. It's Sandra's modern entitlement pitted directly against Ego's traditional patience. Sandra's whole attitude is basically summed up when she says, "I am your girlfriend, not your mate. Stop expecting me to do the cleaning, cooking, and laundry." Wow. Her harsh words and that totally disrespectful tone, especially when she delivers them right in front of Mark's friends, starkly highlight the toxic reality of what Mark thought was his ideal relationship. She actively embarrasses him, even refusing to offer his guests a clean bowl for water. Facing all this tension, we enter some much-needed culture clash comedy, trying to tush up the bride. To cope with his frustration, Mark decides he's going to modernize, or as he calls it, tush up Ego. He buys her city clothes, high heels, and wigs, and this leads to some incredibly tasteful, hilarious moments of culture clash as he tries to force a very traditional girl into a very modern mold. So picture this. Ego steps out in public, and she is entirely uncomfortable. She complains that the wig is scratching her, and then she rips it right off her head in the middle of the street. Mark is shouting, "Did you just take your wig off in public? This thing go break my leg." Ego's hilariously genuine struggle with itchy wigs and painful high heels injects perfect comedic relief into the heavy drama. Plus, it shows that you can't just forcefully change who someone is overnight. We also see these deep cultural misunderstandings on a communication level. There's this totally confusing and innocent conversation where Mark is talking about intimacy, and Ego misinterprets the city slang to be about the cold air conditioning drying her out. The modern slang completely flies over Ego's head, which keeps the pacing of their interaction light and entertaining, but also highlights the massive gap in their backgrounds. But eventually, things shift. Let's look at a change of heart, recognizing true value. This is really the emotional core of our story, where Mark's perspective finally genuinely begins to shift away from all those superficial complaints. The turning point comes through simple, consistent actions. Honestly, never underestimate the power of an incredible seafood soup. Ego makes one packed with so much fish, she jokingly calls it a shark. And it's her unwavering respect. Even when Mark is angry, she's kind.
Ego's amazing culinary skills and her constant sweet demeanor gradually begin to melt Mark's shallow, frustrated exterior. He realizes he actually genuinely enjoys being around her energy.
And then Mark's friend steps in as the crucial voice of reason. After experiencing Sandra's disrespect firsthand, he tells Mark, "Take it from me, that girl is like a raw material. Take your time, mold her into the perfect woman." He points out the absolute nightmare of his own modern relationship, saying he'd marry a girl like Ego in 3 hours if he could. He really highlights Ego's invaluable foundational qualities, like respect and humility, things that simply cannot be bought. Well, Mark finally reaches his absolute breaking point with Sandra's disrespect and entitlement. She actually laughs in his face when he asks for basic care. That's it. Sandra is out. Mark finally opens his eyes to the goldmine he has in Ego. He starts actually teaching her with patience, showing her how to use a microwave, explaining the washing machine, instead of just yelling at her for not already knowing.
This all builds to a beautiful emotional climax. Mark gets down on one knee and says, "I have fallen helplessly in love with you. Please, baby, will you marry me again?" He beautifully apologizes for his degrading behavior, for treating her so poorly when she arrived, and he asks to marry Igor all over again. But this time, it's from a place of true love and deep appreciation.
So, what do we take away from all this? Let's cover lessons in love, takeaways from the journey. The whole point of exploring this story is extracting those powerful life lessons about expectations in love that we can all apply.
The underlying message here is super clear. True value goes entirely beyond initial physical appearances. When we prioritize core character, respect, and humility over a flashy aesthetic, we build a foundation that actually lasts. But it requires immense patience, you know? Relationships are a gradual process of molding and teaching each other, built on mutual care, not toxic entitlement. Building a beautiful relationship is about supporting one another, not just demanding absolute perfection right out of the box. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you reflecting on your own values with this question. Are you overlooking a diamond in the rough simply because you're too focused on the packaging? Take a second and think about whether you're chasing the shiny, entitled thing you thought you ordered, or if you're ready to embrace the humble, loving partner you truly need. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.